Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 135 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Johnson with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, going to be joined by NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, or Craftsman Truck Series. Can't even keep up with sponsors anymore. Driver Layne Riggs is set to join us. Got a great chat ahead as we'll catch up with Layne on his career and his plans for 2024. He'll join us coming up in just a little while from right now. Plus, we will take a look at the top headlines around the sport, what's happening, silly season in full swing, some big changes heading into 2024. We'll recap you on everything that's gone on over the last couple of weeks. We'll answer your questions coming up later in our Ask David segment as well that you guys have for David and Layne coming up in just a bit. As always, David Starr is here with us. We've been off for a couple of weeks, but we are back for our first off-season show before the Christmas holiday. David, happy holidays to you. How are things with the Star Gang? Glad to have you back, man. How are we feeling?
Man, glad to see you guys and glad to be back. Man, just been busy, man. You know, the holidays, the season ending, the holidays are here, and you're so excited to go into the holiday season, but man, it flies by so quick. I was just telling my guys at my shop today, it's like, hey, tomorrow we're going to work a half a day, and then it's Christmas time, but man, it's pretty festive around my house. There's Christmas trees everywhere, lights everywhere, and it's we're excited. How about you guys? What y'all doing? Y'all ready for Christmas?
Yeah, it's all good around here. Certainly a lot to be grateful and thankful for. Just enjoying this time in Texas too, David. I love that it's just now fall in December, that I'm not dealing with snow right now. It is a good place to be here in the great state of Texas this holiday season.
Absolutely. Yesterday in my shop, they were doing some tours around the speedway, and they brought about 20 people into my shop, and they said they were from one couple was from Minnesota. They were from all over, but one of our topics was it's good to live in Texas. Yesterday it was 60, 63, 64, 65 degrees, beautiful day. And the weather's been incredible here. It's just so beautiful. But, Tyler, and, when it's Christmas time, you don't mind a little cold weather. I only want to be cold for about a week, and that's when Christmas is here, because it feels more like Christmas when the weather's cold. And so hopefully it starts getting cold here in the next couple of days,
I'll consider you the minority on that. I'll enjoy it here right now. But Dominic Aragon joins us right now as well. Pleased to welcome him back. Dominic, good to see you. Happy holidays. How we doing, my friend?
Hey, pretty good. Good to be back. I know the last time we had a show was about 4 or 5 weeks ago, so it's good to be back. I had people in my inner circle, you'd appreciate this, Tyler, asking, hey, Dom, when's the next show? When you guys dropping the next show? Well, rest assured it's dropping this week, and it's good to be back with you guys.
It is good to have the gang all back together and enjoying the holiday season. Dom, I know we got a lot to cover in the news and notes, but there has been so much that has gone on since the last time we chatted. What has stood out to you of some of the headlines and some of the things going on in the sport here the last few weeks?
I think maybe because they're more recent, but the two that come to mind, the good news keeps getting better for Ryan Blaney with the engagement to his longtime girlfriend, now fiance, and then Shane Van Gisbergen getting to run the full Xfinity schedule at Colleague Racing and select Cup races and the ARCA Daytona race to have that eligibility. Those two come to mind, but that's just scratching the surface. There's a lot more, and we'll definitely dive into more of that here in a little bit.
What about you, David, of what we've seen over the last few weeks? A lot that's gone on. What's caught your attention, David?
Man, it's just, I just looking back on the season, was an incredible season in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. I mean, it was just amazing year with great racing. And, like you said, Tyler, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm excited to visit with Layne Riggs. I mean, a young guy, young man that's so talented. I think he's going to be a superstar in our sport for years to come. So excited to hear him a little bit about his story. But there's a lot going on, and I've really kind of been busy working on all my sponsorship stuff for 2024, and then my NASCAR racing school has been really busy. So I'm kind of excited to hear a little bit about some of the stuff going on in the sport that I've kind of missed because I've been so busy. But man, the future is bright, and man, everything's going great. Looking forward to the 2024 NASCAR season. I think it's going to be even better than what we just came out of.
Yeah, yeah, and David's got some exciting stuff that he's working on. We'll be talking about here in the coming weeks ahead. Dominic, tell us about our guest this week, Layne Riggs. That last name very familiar in NASCAR circles, but Layne is certainly charting his own path, making a legacy of his own here.
Oh, he certainly is. Second generation NASCAR racer from the great state of North Carolina. I spoke with him in Las Vegas in September and told him about our show, and he was very interested and told him we'd love to have him during the offseason. And lo and behold, we're in our first offseason show, and Layne Riggs, and well, the timing couldn't even be better, guys, signing his new multi-year deal with Front Row Motorsports to compete full-time in the Craftsman Truck Series. It's going to be a fun conversation. And Layne, thank you so much for being our guest this week and our first guest back from our little hiatus.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It's an honor to be on the show, and yeah, it's like you said, perfect timing. I've been living on cloud nine ever since the announcement was made, and it was we actually signed the contract the day that we announced the thing. So I mean, it wasn't like it's been done. It wasn't a done deal for a long time, and then we had to wait a month to tell everybody. No, it was pretty much right then and there. Once it finally got finished, we were able to tell the public. So. Yeah, I'm just super thankful, and we'll talk more about how it came about and such. But yeah, I can't stop smiling.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, Tyler, I was emailing Layne last week. We're going back and forth, and I didn't hear from him until, hey, sorry, because he had just signed the contract, and he got back to me the next day. I mean, I totally understand. I'm sure it's been at that point a busy 24 or 48 hours, but now a week removed from that announcement, I mean, like you said, cloud nine, has it finally sunk in, or is it still not quite there that you're going to be competing full time in 24?
It has. They actually have already got me on the Ford Performance Simulator already, and already running laps, and I've already ran some laps at Coda on the simulator. That's going to be the tough one. I've never ran a road course in my life, so I had a lot to learn. They're like, yeah, you're only like 2 or 3 seconds off so far, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a lot to learn. So it's awesome, just to know everybody in the shop, and get to meet Dylan Capello, my new crew chief, and just everything so far has been great. The meshing's been well. I think it's going to be a really great season for what I've seen so far. I have high expectations.
Layne, let me ask you, you're going to a very good team in Front Row Motorsports. We've seen what they've done at the Cup level with Michael McDowell and the job that he's done with that organization. But the truck side, this is a team that competes for wins week in and week out. We know about the ownership group, how well of a job they've done there, what they've invested in this truck program. What's it like for you to be able to walk in and know you guys are going to be able to compete at a high level right away?
It's I'm super excited, but it's also just relieving that I finally feel like I've made it. I'm going to be able to go to the racetrack every weekend. I get to go to Daytona, get to go to all the tracks. Hey, we have an off weekend. We get to go try again next week. That's something I've never been able to do before. It's always been, well, hopefully I can find a ride with a different team in about 3 or 4 months from now and get one more shot. It's just going to be great to be able to create that bond. But yeah, Front Row Motorsports, they're dominant. I mean, I think if they would have been able to, not have the couple of mistakes and, bad luck happen, I think they would have won the championship. Everybody saw the championship race. He was the fastest truck, in my opinion. So they just, Chris Lawson, everybody over there, they built a really good program. All the guys in there are passionate about what they do. They got great resources. Obviously, they have Cup cars and, a lot of Ford support help. So they got the resources, and they also got the people that know how to use the resources, which is just as important as having them in the first place.
Absolutely. So, Layne, man, you come from a great racing family. Your dad, Scott Riggs, is, I don't know, he's just so good, so talented. It was fun to race against him, but man, he, not only very competitive in the truck side, ran Cup, did it all. I mean, your dad was just so talented as a NASCAR driver. it's cool, and I know your dad's so proud. I mean, I just, it's cool to. It don't get much better than what y'all are experience right now, and what you will what you and your family will experience for years to come. But man, take us back to the start, man. Take us. Obviously your dad been racing for a long time, and did you fall in love with it right away? Kind of share with us and our fans and your fans back early days for Layne Riggs. Take us back to the beginning and bring us up to where we're at today.
All right, starting at the beginning. It all started out at the dirt track behind our house with a little kid cart. We're actually going to build the shop directly behind our house, our race shop, just our play shop at the time. And, I think there was some kind of miscommunication in the construction versus the grading. So we had this big graded out spot behind the house. And Dad's always gone racing all the time when I was younger. And me and my grandpa got out there on an old tractor that had a big scrape blade on it. And he said, screw his shop. We're gonna build a go-kart track. So when Dad got home from whatever race he was running, we already had hay bales and we had a graded go-kart track and we were already running on it. So there went his shop plan grading idea. So we had to move the shop to a different location so we could keep the go-kart track, which we still run on to this day. I think I posted a video on social media just the other week of us running on it. So yeah, that's the start. And then, I did a couple like kid kart things, but I I remember saying, Mom, Dad, I don't like doing this racing thing. I gotta wait too long between races. Can we just go home where I can drive anytime I want to? And they're like, okay. So I did that, and then we ran here at the track at the house, and it was gosh, we used to have Wednesday night races here. I mean, competitive. I'm talking, we'd throw up money to win. We'd have bounties on people, and it was a full out. It was pretty much as close to a sanctioned racetrack as you could get it here at the track.
What y'all call the Riggs? Was it Riggs Raceway? I mean, what was the name of the racetrack at your house, dude? That's pretty awesome.
It was just the Riggs track, Riggs's track. That's what it was called. But we had a couple other friends that had some tracks too, so we we made like a little schedule. Like it was crazy. We got too competitive with it. It got to the point where it wasn't fun anymore because we were all trying so hard and it was so competitive and soaking tires and cheating up motors, and we had to start doing tech, and it's like that's not even fun. So that kind of fizzled away. And then I finally, that's when after doing that for so long, I'm like, let me try a car one time.
Right.
So Dad knew the hardships of racing. He knows how tough it is, changes your life, how much it takes from you. So, I tried all the stick and ball sports, basketball, baseball, golf, you name it. I tried it. It wasn't for me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't passionate about it. So I finally begged enough, and thank you, Mom. She finally got me. She convinced Dad to go out and buy a 4-cylinder car. It was at Orange County Speedway, right up the road, about 7 or 8 minutes up the road. They have a class called the 4-cylinder Pure Stock Series. So we bought a used car, and we went to the racetrack for the first time. And I was 10 years old, and we ran, and I think I impressed everybody off the bat. They're like, we're gonna have to go test 10 times till he gets good. I think we went twice, and we went and raced the third weekend. So went out. I finished second my first ever race, and won my second ever race. Now, granted, this is just a hobby division. This isn't a kids class. So my arch nemesis, I think he was like 67, and I was 10.
You're 10.
We were wrecking each other. We were right hooking each other. I mean, it was ugly, and we were pure rivals. And we had a 57-year age gap. So
Dude, you were 10. He was 67.
Yes, and we were beating the doors off of each other. It was crazy.
That's amazing.
That's what taught me how to race. Not racing against kids. I raced against grown-ups from the start. So it started there, and then that progressed into winning the championship in that series. And then the next year, we bought a late model stock, and I ran the limited class there. And I think I ended up winning, again, my second or third race. We ended up winning our first race. So, it just felt like all the tasks that were given me, it was like, it takes a couple races, and all right, we got it. We won the championship there, and we moved up to late model, and I was ready to start, going to different tracks. I only ever ran Orange County Speedway.
Right.
but everything else was NASCAR sanctioned. And to run anything NASCAR sanctioned, you got to be 14.
Right.
As well as the Cars Tour, you had to be 14. So my first ever Cars Tour race was on my 14th birthday at Tri-County Speedway. And, at the time I was racing against Deke McCaskill, Josh Berry, Tommy Lemons.
You're racing against grown men.
Yes, I was 14 racing against these guys. First ever Cars Tour race. We qualified second to Deke McCaskill.
Wow.
And then I don't even remember how the race turned out, but ran Cars Tour for so many years. Here's the full circle moment. My last Cars Tour race I ran like 3 months ago at South Boston in Kevin Harvick's car. Me and Deke McCaskill battled it out for the win.
Dude, that's coming full circle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 7 or 8 years later.
Wow.
So we ran late models. 2022, we decided to go for the NASCAR Weekly Series Championship. Won the Weekly Series Championship along with making my first couple truck starts. Just progressed from there. Just kept having to dig at it, keep digging, and this past season we meshed late model racing. Made a couple truck starts, finished third at IRP in the Spire #7 truck.
Great race, man. Great race. I was there watching you. You did a phenomenal job.
Thank you. It was Bono did a great job setting it up. I just had to hold the steering wheel. I definitely had to make sure I had perseverance, and then I think that opportunity, got me the Colleague ride to run those 3 Xfinity races for Colleague, and then just running well in those and showing that I had the potential. I was able to talk to Jerry Freeze, and they gave me the opportunity to run this truck.
Well, dude, it's so refreshing to hear your story and to see somebody like yourself that's so passionate and obviously so talented. What your experience is cool because you earned the right. You earned it. Nobody gave it to you. You earned it, and it's so refreshing because, as you know, it's doesn't happen that way very much, and it's good. Your story is really a great story for every racer in the world or in the United States to know that, hey, man, if you have that passion, you're good. You understand your craft. You study your craft. You race your tail off, and just all the knowledge and everything you have for racing, it is possible, and I think Josh Berry, yourself, there's a couple other ones out there over the years, not a lot, but you earn your right. When Kevin Harvick calls you and wants you to drive his late model, and just Colleague calls you and wants you to drive their Xfinity car, and by the way, you did a hell of a job. And then the truck races you ran, man, it's refreshing and cool, and it inspires a lot of other young racers out there to don't give up. And look at Layne Riggs. Look what he's doing. And now having the opportunity of a lifetime with the organization that has trucks. It's in the Truck Series, in the Cup Series. And man, I'm excited for you because you have the talent, you have the ability, and I think you're a future star in our sport. So congratulations.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. And, talking about working on it, Dad told me, he said, I'm not going to work on this car because it was me and him and volunteer help for those 8 years that we raced, to like 10 years total on all of it.
Right.
And he said, if you're not going to help me on this car, we're not racing. If it gets wrecked and you're not going to help me fix it, we're not going racing. So, I can say I knew every nut and bolt on every car I've ever owned and worked on them all. And, if we wanted to go faster, we had to go down there and work on them. You know how that is.
Yeah, I think that's called tough love. That's a dad that really loves his son and wants him to, nobody gave your dad anything either. He earned everything he ever got, and he was just in putting that work ethic in you, and he didn't have to tell you twice, obviously, because look how it's all turned out. You know what I mean? And so, man, such a great story. It's amazing.
Speaking of your dad, Layne, your dad, ran for MB2 Motorsports, Evernham, Haas and all that. I know you were young, but what was it like growing up around Dad and seeing him race for some big-time organizations in the sport and having the impact that he did? I mean, everybody knows who your dad is. I imagine that's got to be pretty cool to be carrying on his legacy and everything.
Well, when he was racing, every kid's dad raced, right? Isn't this how it is? This is normal, right? We go to the racetrack. Yeah. I mean, my buddy at preschool, obviously his dad goes to the racetrack too. Duh. That's how I felt the whole time. And I mean, I understood it's like, okay, this is not normal, but I'm like, I truly didn't understand until he got out of the sport, which was kind of difficult. And, I regretted. I'm like, oh, all those times, we were on the grid at the Daytona 500 and, we're starting on the pole of a race and, winning the open and stuff like that. And I didn't care. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Looking back, that was really special. And I wasn't really old enough to understand what that meant. But, in talking about his career and the timing of it all, it did work out in a good way that when he did start to step away from the sport, it was at the same time that I was starting to get interested in it. So he was able to spend that time with me. He's been to, I think, all but 2 races ever. And it was because he wasn't even possible he could be there at them. And, he's been there from the beginning and, all the family supported. And, yeah, like you said, tough love, had to work for it. And, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
Well, you were saying right before we came on the show, and you care to share if you would, but that your dad was pretty excited for your signing with the Truck Series team and going full-time racing next year. Share with us just what it's been like to be around him and some of those emotions and that proudness I'm sure he has in you.
It's been great. He said he keeps saying, he said, I've worked myself out of a job. I don't have to work on race cars anymore. I've worked myself out of a job. He said, now I don't know what to do with myself. So I have a younger sister. She dances in competitions and such. He's had to miss so many of them over the years, and just weddings and birthday parties and stuff that he's always had to miss because we're going racing. He wants to make sure he spends time with the family and distant family that he hasn't seen in years, just because you don't have time to. So he wants to try to make all that right, try to do that, and he's just relieved. He's like, I've pushed and worked so hard and worked with you to get you to this point. I'm just glad that we didn't do it for, I wouldn't say nothing, but glad it finally paid off. We saw a dream, we saw a goal, and we were able to accomplish that. We know that from that step from being a late model driver to being a NASCAR driver is the biggest step in the sport. Like he showed his hands. It's like it's that big between late model and NASCAR, and it's this big between the other series to get to the other ones. He's like, so you did it, you made it. This is the step. So I know Mom was relieved. We were doing all the contract negotiations. She was probably the most tense one out of everybody because she, you could always fall apart at any minute. And I know that when I signed it and I called her, she bawled, and she had to hang the phone up and call me back later. So it's been awesome to see all the emotion for everybody.
Layne, you got the trophies behind you. We know about the weekly series championship you won back in 2022. What did that mean for you to win that title, to be a championship NASCAR driver, and what did it do for your career going forward?
I think that was one of the stepping stones. I mean, it all goes back to the very beginning. Say you didn't win that first go-kart race. It all progressed from the start. But I think that was one of the big pinnacle things that put me on the map, and people were like, "Oh, this kid's actually the real deal. He can do it." Obviously we had to race 40 some races in a season and win. And, I think that's what got me the opportunity, because I was, doing the championship, and simultaneously I ran, those 3 truck races for Hallmark. Thankful to them to give me the opportunity. I remember we went to my first ever truck race we ran. It was at IRP and we finished 7th. And I flew home and drove all night to Dominion Speedway to race the late model race for national points. And we went out and won the late model race the next day. So that was one of those nights, like, man, say it didn't all work out like that. But I think winning that, being successful in the truck races I ran, I think another big one is obviously finishing 3rd this season. And also just, Harvick gave me opportunity. Obviously, if Kevin Harvick, Kevin could have picked anybody, and he picked me to drive his late model. That says a lot. Just as much of him, let me drive the car and have an opportunity to go to victory lane, it was just as important to show the public, if I got to pick one guy, this is the guy. And that goes a long way. Thankful to Matt Collig and Chris Rice for letting me drive their car. And, our Martinsville Xfinity race, I talked a little bit to Jerry Freeze before it, and, just kind of talking, chit-chatting. and he hit me with the question. He said, "Would you like to drive our truck next year?" And I was like, "Drive your truck." And I was thinking that deal must have been sewed up for 6 months now. It's just not public. And he said, "No, we don't have a driver yet." And we're like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "We got some people on the radar. We're kind of debating on it." He said, "But we'll watch you today and see what we think." I was like, "Okay." So he called me the next Monday morning and said, "You're the guy. We want you next year, and we're 100% into it. What do you think?" And it was like, oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable. So, going back to events, I think, the big ones that stand out to me is the national championship, finishing third at IRP in the truck, and then also having the successful Xfinity races that the right people were watching.
Right. Absolutely, man. It's amazing the opportunities that had come. You know what I mean, and what you did with those opportunities puts you where you're at now. You know what I mean. So it's amazing to be such a raw rookie and to run so good. It's just the whole industry was watching really. And I knew it wasn't going to be long, because you were just too good, and it was cool to watch you run the IRP race. I was there watching. It was pretty cool, amazing, yeah.
That's
and
great.
really, and I believe, God, I'm trying to remember, was it Zane Smith that won the race?
No, Tom Majeski won the race with
Yeah,
his
okay, yeah, and then
with his bleeders.
yes, I remember. But if you're looking back on that, and that's what racing's about sometimes, you're not really gaining an advantage if nobody catches what you're doing. But they were doing something, and I think it caught up to them. And looking back on it, if they would have found what they were doing earlier, I mean, hell, there was no telling how that race would have turned out for you. You know what I mean? So he was in a different zip code, and now we understand why. But man, you were impressive that night, man. It was pretty cool.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I mean, the track was super racy. I remember the first year we went, we were all kind of running the top, and
Right.
it's like the top got so run in. There's so much rubber up top that we had to start searching for grip just to find some green track to have some bite. So I mean, I remember, I made so many passes there, slide jobbing people on the bottom. I mean, I think that's the only asphalt track we can go to that you can actually slide job people.
Yeah, there's
going
yeah,
all the way
there's
to the
another
grass and
one.
slide jobbing people.
Yeah, no doubt. But man, your truck looked like it rotated really good. I remember watching you dive down in there underneath them, and man, that thing would cut in the center, man. It was like, man, he's I really thought you had a shot there for a while, but that other truck that won, it was just man, I'm like, they got to be doing something, to be that dominant, I mean, it was amazing. But anyway, that was really cool, man. It's we're excited, and
Yeah.
I think everybody in the racing world and the fans across America are excited to watch you win a lot of races and championships in the future. So yeah.
Layne, I got to know, besides your dad and David Starr, who was some of your favorite drivers growing up over the years, man? Who'd you look up to?
You can't go wrong with Jimmy Johnson. I mean, he's probably the most successful and professional person in the sport. I mean, I can't think of one thing that he ever did that, he was never the bad guy. He never caused any fights, never did anything. Sure, he was passionate about it, but he always made sure to keep his emotions in check. He was mentally strong. When what things weren't going his way, he might get a little frustrated, but he kept his head in the game. And that's a really hard thing to do nowadays. Obviously, Dad, you can't go wrong with that. But I've always thought that Jimmy was an admirable race car driver.
Dominic, isn't that interesting? Like, it still takes me a moment to mentally adjust guys saying Jimmy Johnson. I don't feel like Jimmy's that old, but we saw his entire career.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. The five in a row, the 7 total championships. And to think too, I mean, I remember a lot of those races on ESPN, and Andy Petrie and Dr. Jerry Punch, friend of the show. I think I remember he was the one that quoted the saying, Tyler, there were 3 things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, Layne, that's a good one. Jimmy Johnson's definitely a good one, but your dad was cool, calm, and collective too. he was just a charger, man. He raced hard, and when it didn't go his way, he was just always even keel. You know what I mean? He was never too high or too low. He was always the same, you know. And but man, Jimmy Johnson, yeah, that's a great one right there. One of all time greats. You know, there's only three.
You had any interactions or got the chance to meet Jimmy at all?
Not recently. I mean, I remember, when I was a kid, like one of those vivid young, child memories. I remember standing on the introduction stage, driver introduction stage, and we were sitting there in a circle, and it was Gordon and Jimmy, and it was like, shoot, I don't remember who it was, but I remember them two, and it was like three other ones that are all, complete legends. And at the time, I'm like, Dad, I'm hungry. I want some graham crackers or something. Like like I said, it meant nothing to me at the time, but not when I could actually form sentences and talk to the guy to have a good conversation.
Well, I think in the future you'll have plenty of conversations with him moving forward. You might even drive for him one day.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So when you look at 24, Layne, of course you want to win races, lead laps, compete for the championship. But what are some other goals or some other things that you've jotted down that you'd certainly love to cross off next season?
Yeah, I mean, number one goal for me is to win a truck race. I mean, I think that we're in the position now that we can do that. Going to be the best resource I've ever sat in before, and obviously they got the notes. Zane's gone almost undefeated at Daytona, and he's undefeated at Coda. The 2-track, I've never been on a super speedway, and I've never been on a road course, and I got to go fill the shoes and win them both. So, it's not any pressure on me. I'm just going to go out there and race and have a good time. And usually just when you go out there and you just race and have a good time, that's all you want to go do, and just drive the race car. You usually do a whole lot better than when you put a lot of pressure on yourself or feel like you have to compete. And luckily I've been able to do that even with our part-time starts. But I'm going to also try to run some short track races in the Cars Tour for Kevin Harvick next year too. I think we jotted down 6 races we're going to try to run next year, just on off weekends. I mean, there's plenty of off weekends in the Truck Series, so try to hit some big late model races and keep my grassroots very strong. And the Cars Tour is blowing up right now, as everybody knows, in the racing world. It's a super stout competition. I mean, I ran both of them this year, and I think the Cars Tour's competition is just as hard as the Truck Series. And that's not down in the Truck Series at all. The Cars Tour is tough. There's a lot of good guys out there. I mean, the teams are getting more and more professional. I mean, the guys that run up front in the late models now have pull-down rigs like the Truck Series do. So it's like it's getting really competitive. The purses are getting bigger, and I'm just glad I had the success that I did in the sport in that series. So I want to win a truck race. That's my biggest goal, and have fun while doing it.
It's going to be no time before the Cars Tour is on TV, before we see it, here soon. It's blowing up big time, and Layne, you're a big part of that, of its growth. I think that can be said, with what your success was, what you're able to do. Dominic mentioned your goals for this year. Let me take that a step further, Layne. What are the ultimate goals? What do you want to accomplish? Is it getting to the Cup Series one day? Is it competing on that stage? What's the ultimate dream?
I mean, shoot. I mean, I only want to win like 8 Cup championships. That's all I want to do.
Oh, okay, only 8. I like it.
But you got to set your goals high, set your expectations high. I would love to be in the NASCAR Cup Series one day. It's what I've worked for from the beginning, and I want to make sure that I'm in equipment that I know that I can show up on any weekend and have a shot to win the race. I've made sure that in everything I've done, I've tried to make sure I've positioned myself to be able to do that. I can't think of only a couple of times I've ever walked into a racetrack and thought I got no shot to win today. I want to make sure that I'm fully confident in my team, my equipment, my guys to be able to do that. So, no matter what, when I leave the sport, I want to be somebody that everybody knows gave it their all, worked hard at it, did it the right way, and want to be a role model one day.
I love it. That's great. More to come with Layne Riggs. We'll get to our news and notes. We'll answer some questions for Layne coming up later on as well. But let's start with some of the headlines going on in the sport. Dominic, take it away. Got plenty to catch up on here.
There's so much to catch up on, and I make some notes here on the phone, so we'll just kind of speed through them and we can just pick them apart. And of course, Tyler, I know I'm going to miss something. Just let me know what we missed and we can break it down a little further. But on top of some of the news, of course, Layne Riggs announcing his deal in the NASCAR Truck Series. We've got Jimmy Johnson announcing his crew chief lineup, with Jason Burdett leading his team in the part-time efforts. Noah Gragson going full-time in the Cup Series, replacing the outgoing Eric Almirola in the number 10 car. Eric Almirola, Ryan Truex, among others, running in the Xfinity Series for Joe Gibbs in 2024, as well as Shane Van Gisbergen announcing a full-time Xfinity deal with Colleague Racing. Chase Elliott winning the most popular driver award in the NASCAR Awards banquet, among other headlines. Tyler, what am I missing? Got to fill in some gaps for me here.
Those are the big ones. Let's start with Noah Gragson. David, I know you're a big Noah Gragson fan. He slides in that 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing, and I got to say, like, it was unfortunate the way things ended, and I hope he's learned from it. Everything moved on, but I'm happy that he's getting a second chance, and not just a second chance, he's getting a chance in a better ride and a better organization here. This actually worked out pretty well for Noah Gragson here.
No, it did, man. He's kind of like Layne Riggs, just lots of talent, young guy. Man, I'm excited for Noah. I'm excited the way he's handled things, in an unfortunate situation. He's grown for it. And, unfortunately he had to go through what he went through, but at the end of the day, he landed back on his feet. And I think, and man, any race car driver would like to be in his shoes. I mean, it's stepping into the 10 car at Stewart-Haas Racing. I mean, dude, don't get much better than that. So I'm excited for him. I think, be interesting to see how the season plays out for him. But man, he landed with a good organization, and I think they got some good funding behind them. And I look for Noah to be very competitive, maybe win a couple races.
Dominic, that Stewart-Haas organization, you got Ryan Preece coming off, I think it's fair to say, a disappointing season. Chase Briscoe wasn't great this year. And then you add in a rookie in Josh Berry, a second-year driver, Noah Gragson, who didn't look that great this past year at Legacy Motor Club. Kevin Harvick gone. I would say this is the most pressure Stewart-Haas Racing has ever had for that organization. A lot of young talent, and they got to grow up fast to compete here for a team that had a down year in 2023.
And the only comparison that I could really think of, Tyler, that would come remotely close and in the same series in recent memory, when Rick Hendrick had to shake up the lineup at Hendrick Motorsports and Junior retired, and Jeff Gordon retired, and Jimmy Johnson was on the heels of retiring. You have Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Alex Bowman all coming in with combined 0 wins. You have 3 of those drivers on this roster now at Stewart-Haas Racing with a combined 0 wins as well. 1 win total among the entire organization. Now, that's not fair to make that lump sum comparison because a lot of these drivers have run up front in Cup races. Kevin Harvick did just retire, but certainly a rebuilding year here upcoming in 2024. And I remember Ryan Preece making comments at Phoenix saying they don't necessarily feel like it's a rebuild. They already feel like they're already in motion. And he would agree that it wasn't the year that they were hoping for in 23, but that they're going to be that much better in 24. And you got to imagine too, Josh Berry and the grinder that he is in that race car, he's going to get the most out of that number 4 car. Got to imagine that's going to be the flagship car still.
Yeah, for sure. Layne, let me ask you about Shane Van Gisbergen. Certainly made some noise with that win in the Chicago street race, but now he's here to stay. Full-time Xfinity Series racing. We're going to see him dabble in Cup and Truck as well. I mean, he was awesome in supercars. This is a guy that's got a bright future. Are you looking forward? I know that you mentioned you've never won on a road course, never run on a road course before. Are you looking forward to taking him on, like racing him at some point on these road courses? Maybe you'll even it up a bit, taking him on in these ovals here. I imagine that there's got to be some excitement to kind of go back and forth with a guy like this.
Right now, no. I don't want to see him on a road course. He will blow my doors off. But the one oval race he ran was at IRP where we finished 3rd, and I remember I was coming up to lap him, and he pointed me to the inside and all, and I think I lapped him like 3 laps to go or something. But yeah, I'll race him on an oval right now, straight up. But I don't know about a road. I got to do some more sim work. If it shows how green I was, I didn't even know the Dakota road course that well. And a couple of the blind corners on the sim, I was getting to them, and I thought we were turning left, and I turned the wheel left, and it was blind over to the right, and I like went off the track, and I'm like, oh gosh, they had to reset me and all. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of practicing, a lot of iRacing laps. I'm going to make sure I know that track in and out. Thankfully, that's the only one we got to go to this year, which is tough because I mean, when you're going up in the rankings, you go to Xfinity, they have what, 4 or 5 a year. They go to a lot of road course races, so it's like, the trucks before, I think they had 1 or 2 or 3. It makes it difficult when you don't have that experience. Obviously, it's easier now, but would you rather get your teeth kicked in early so when you move up later, it'll be better? But yeah, I'm glad he's here. I'm glad he's bringing the emphasis to it. I'm glad he went to college, and I think he'll mesh well over there with those guys, and just bringing some excitement in the sport when he did it. I know we were all had our jaw on the floor when he won the Cup race. I don't think I've ever seen anybody come in and win their first ever Cup race. So
First
just
start,
shows his
yeah.
talent. Yeah, first ever start. I'm sure there's one like back in the 40s or 50s or something when it was pretty new, but definitely not in recent history. But for sure, he's a talented race car driver. I know that he's really good on the road courses, especially the street course. But I'm excited to see how he's going to pan out with everybody else when he's going to be out of his element.
David, so much excitement about SVG with what he did, and he's certainly a likable figure too. The comparisons he got in supercars was to Kyle Busch, that kind of an aggressive racer in that sense. Comes over the Xfinity Series full time. As far as expectations goes, I don't see any reason why SVG can't be in the playoffs, why he can't contend for a championship right away in the Xfinity Series next year. What do you think about SVG's move to the Xfinity side full time here?
Man, what a great opportunity for him. And, like he going to a great organization that has ran strong over the last couple of years. And he'll step into an organization that has a lot of passion, a lot of great resources, a lot of great people that know how to take those resources and put them to great use. So I think with this opportunity that, just listen to Layne speak about iRacing and the simulator and really studying his craft and really before you get to the racetrack, it's probably the same thing that he will be doing, and I think as every lap's going to be critical. Every lap he runs, he's going to learn, but his ability, what we've seen him do, his feet work at the street course there in Chicago, and a guy that has that much talent, you wouldn't think would take them long to really catch on to what we got going on our circle tracks, So I know a lot of people are excited for him. He'll bring a lot of new eyeballs to our sport, which is a cool thing. But there's a lot of people paying attention to his opportunity to see how he does with it, and so that he'll be strong on the road courses, and it'll be interesting to see how quickly he adapts to NASCAR style racing on our circle tracks. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's a lot of cool stuff going on. We look at him and look at Layne, and just, man, there's a lot of cool stories out there.
Yeah, certainly so. Dominic, what else we got going here?
Well, of course, every week we look and see who we're going to pick for the race, who are the odds-on favorites. Well, I'll tell you what, Tyler, we're still 9 weeks away from Daytona, but it's never too early to start thinking of who you're going to be placing your bets on for the 2024 Daytona 500. Earlier this month, NASCAR announced the odds-on favorites for the 2024 Daytona 500. Maybe a surprise? No surprise. He's never won the Daytona 500, but Ryan Blaney is the odds-on favorite at 9-1 at this time to win the Great American Race next year. Some of the other odds-on favorites, if you will, at 11-1 each: Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski at RFK Racing, as well as Chase Elliott. Now, what I find interesting there, Tyler, is that the top 4 odds at this time, none of them have ever won the Daytona 500. William Byron, though, and Denny Hamlin are the next ones at 12-1. Denny Hamlin, a 3-time Daytona 500 winner. And I believe William Byron has sat on the pole for the 500 before. And as you work down the list, last year's Daytona 500. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 20-1. The 2021 Daytona 500, highest odds at this time. Michael McDowell sitting at 40-1. And as of right now, your highest odds-on favorite is the man that Layne replaced with Zane Smith at 100-1 for the 2024 Daytona 500. Of course, still 2 months out, but never too early to start talking numbers.
Yeah. Layne, I know that Christmas is around the corner here. Thanksgiving was a couple weeks ago and everything, but we'd be lying if we said Daytona wasn't on everybody's minds right now. What's it like for you and just other teams these next few weeks prepping for Speed Weeks, which will be here soon?
Yeah, I know they're already building the trucks, and I've been trying to stay tight with the guys in the fab shop. The people in the fab shop, the people that build the bodies on the trucks, they're the guys that make us look good on the racetrack. So trying to create a relationship with those guys. I told them anytime they need a hand, I'll come in there and I'll beat some sheet metal out. I'm not scared. I know they appreciated that a lot, but it for sure. I mean, Daytona's gonna be tough. I've never ran a super speedway in my life. I did run Atlanta in a truck that only lasted about 30 laps though, but I still got a little bit of a feel. I know what it's going to be like. I've seen a lot of footage. Like I said, iRacing. I'm going to be on iRacing, racing with some guys at about midnight, drafting at Daytona, trying to figure out how to do it. So back to your favorite, Ryan Blaney to win the race. His spotter, Josh Williams, is also going to be my spotter for next year. Is going to stay with the number 38 truck. He was Zane Smith's spotter when he ran the truck, and he's going to stick with the 38 and be with me next year. So already trying to build a relationship with him. I think we're going to probably after New Year's, we're going to sit down in the shop pretty quickly and start watching footage, watching races. I mean, it's what it takes, especially the speedway stuff, just to sit there and talk about it. Just put yourself in the situations, even if you've never done it before.
Very cool. Definitely exciting. David, Daytona, from your perspective, what's the next few weeks like for you? We're just these other teams ahead of counting down the days to Speed Weeks here. I know you got your stuff going on with the racing school, but I'm sure Daytona's on everybody's minds right now.
Man, it's that's the Super Bowl. It's no doubt about it. Just for me, trying to finish up all my contract with sponsors and just trying to get that done. It's like, it's so kind of trying to enjoy the holidays here, but it's it's somewhat nerve wracking, because time is not on our side, and there's a lot of teams and drivers in that same situation. But man, it's the quicker you can get all that done, the more funding you give the team, the more they can get their cars ready to get the season started, So, but man, you speak of Daytona. I was listening to Dominic talk about the odds-on favorites, and who's man. It's like Michael McDowell winning that thing a couple of years ago. That was unbelievable. You just got to put yourself in the right position, and there's no telling who's going to win the Daytona 500. And then the same goes for the Xfinity race and the Truck Series race, and it's such a exciting weekend to kick off the season. But man, it's if there was one that every driver in all three series would want to win, it would be Daytona, and it's tough. It's Daytona. They're hard to come by, and I just listen to Layne speak, just he's got a spotter with a lot of experience and a team with a lot of experience. And, I don't know how close Layne's relationship is with Zane, but, he's going to have some really good people around him, and I know when Daytona gets here, he'll be ready for it. But man, if there's one we all want to win, that would be it.
Oh yeah, definitely. So our Ask David segment coming up next. We ask you guys to submit questions to us each and every week on Facebook, facebook.com/StarPodcast, X @StarPodcast, and also by email, davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us there. Our questions this week for both David and Layne. First one in the inbox. This one's from Tim, and it's for everybody. Tim wants to know, what is everybody's favorite memories of Scott Riggs? We'll start with Layne. Layne, what's your favorite memories of your dad over the years?
Oh, there's too many to think about to pick one. You got to make me think about that one. I need to think of a good funny story. maybe something embarrassing for him that nobody's heard before.
Let's circle back to you. Let's go to David then.
Yeah, let me think about that one.
Man, Scott was just a great guy. I remember him driving for Jimmy Smith, Ultra Motorsports, the #2 truck. It was fast. And, I remember going up to Scott, asking him about some things, and he was just so down to earth, but just a great guy always. Every time I'd go see him and talk to him, he was nice. He was very, very serious, and but he was a great guy, and that's what I remember about your dad. He's very competitive. If you were going to win a race, you were going to have to beat Scott Riggs, and then remember the opportunities going into Cup racing. He did it all, and he would kind of remind me of Jimmy Johnson, just level headed, and he was very humbled. He didn't beat on his chest, but man, when the green flag dropped, he let his ability to do the talking for him. But he was just always a great guy. And I always thought Scott, he ran NASCAR. I don't remember what his career span was. I don't know if it was 14, 15, whatever, however many years it was. I thought, in hearing Layne talk about his dad earlier, I really thought that his career was kind of cut somewhat short, because when you didn't see Scott Riggs anymore, he still had the ability, and it was kind of interesting to hear from Layne what kind of happened right there at the end of his dad's career. But a great guy.
Dominic, what about you?
Well, mine, of course, you got to think Dominic's going to go with something obscure. And I'd be curious to know if Layne was at these races. But the first 2 races I ever got to go, first NASCAR races as a fan, was in high school. And I got to go to the Phoenix races in 2009 and 2010. And it's about that time your dad was running those start and park gigs. And he ran with Tommy Baldwin in 2009 and the Curtis Key car, or Raymond Key car, in 2010. But I really remember the 2010 run because that was a car that kept messing races with Casey Mears, and then Mears was a relief driver for Hamlin, so they put your dad in for like a 1 or 2 race deal, and he outqualified half the field, and he gets in the race, and this was before stage racing. I remember that black 90 unsponsored Chevrolet running laps, and there was some sort of whoever was crew chiefing told Scott to stay out midway through the race, and I remember hearing like on the little scanners that your dad was like running on fumes, and a caution came out. And he was running 6th or 7th, and that black 90 car stayed on the lead lap for most of that 400 lap race at Phoenix, and about 2 laps to go, blew a tire, hit the wall, still finished, I think, 22nd or 23rd, but especially at that time where there was just so much of these big teams and these small teams, and there really was no in between. It was pretty cool to see that 90 car running top 20 for most of the race. Again, in an unsponsored car, in a very underfunded team, and seeing Scott Riggs wheel the heck out of that car and stay on the lead lap for most of the race.
Yeah, those are some great memories. I think back that Daytona 500 run he had when he finished, what was it, 4th? I think that was like his 2nd or 3rd year in Cup. That was a big deal. That was an underdog story, I mean, it was awesome to see. And Dominic, you'll appreciate this. I love playing that NASCAR video game back in the day. That Valvoline paint scheme, I'll be honest, was badass. I made a point. You'll appreciate this, Layne, to race as Scott Riggs on the NASCAR video game, because I love that paint scheme. That Valvoline car was as good as any car on the track. Good looking. Was one of my favorites. The red, white, and blue and everything. That was awesome. So those are what come to mind. Layne, did you think of a good funny story here?
I got a pretty good one, and yeah, Dominic, I appreciate you telling me that story. I didn't never know about that. That's cool that somebody else had a memory that he could relate to, and obviously at the time I was probably still sucking on my thumb. I didn't know what was going on. Glad you were able to remind me. And Tyler, yeah, the P4 at Daytona, it was on TV the other night. I think they had like the NASCAR Classics race or like greatest all-time races, and it was on there. And he came across the line, and he photo finished with Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon side by side, and that was actually his first ever Cup race. I think that was his rookie race.
Wow.
It was 04. Wow. I think. It was 04. Okay, it was either 04 or 5. It was either his first ever one or his second one. I'm thinking first, though, for some reason. But anyways, Yeah, the story I'm thinking about is about 5, 6 years ago, and we were racing in the Cars Tour, and I actually, Dad loves to ride his dirt bike. He actually started off motocross racing, and that's how he got his start in motorsports. And the reason he started cars is because he got home from school one day with his cast on after he broke his arm racing dirt bikes, and his dirt bike was in about 20 pieces after my grandpa went out there and cut it up with the sawzall. And then, he got all upset, mad, and he said, "Well, why don't you just come in the shop?" And obviously, I wasn't there. I just heard the stories. He said, "Well, just come in the shop." And they're set a 4-cylinder race car and said, "You're going to go racing with the cage now, not these stupid dirt bikes." So, so yeah, that's always a story I think of. But the one I'm thinking of is about 4 or 5 years ago. We were riding dirt bikes. I fell. I broke my collarbone in half, and we were mid-season running for points. And we were doing some kind of deal. We were trying to keep, I think, the owner's points, the number that you drive for, the points were pretty important at the time. So we had to make the race, and it was in Orange County. Of course, the weekend after I broke my collarbone, it was the Orange County race, the one I wanted to go to so bad. And he was my relief driver. He had to run the race, and the car was terrible. I mean, he drove the wheels off that thing. I mean, obviously, he got all he could out of it, and we were running like 13th all race. Qualified bad and got in a wreck or two. And I forgot who he was racing with, but anyways, they were racing, and he told me that he pointed his finger out the window, like, take the inside, you're faster than me, take it. And went down in the corner, and the guy just, obliterated, just doored him up the hill, used him up. And he told me after, he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking that. So, he got loose, and, he's 10 car lengths back now from this guy. And he blasts down into turn one, wide open, banging the rev limiter, went on the apron of the racetrack just to come up and slam the dude. I mean, he said that's the only time he's ever intentionally wrecked somebody, and he said it felt so good. And he destroyed the car, but got out, and the guy wasn't even mad at him. He's like, I don't know. I don't even think they talked, but it was no fight or anything. He just kind of accepted the fact that that's what happened. But yeah, I remember that the fans there that night, because that's his first race back since he ran Cup, and they packed the grandstands, and they were going nuts. I'm talking nuts in the grandstands. Obviously, that's still talked about to this day and laughed about of how crazy that was. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite memories of him being the crazy Scott Riggs that he is.
So Mr. Cool lost his cool.
He lost his cool bit. He said, "I have nothing to lose. What am I going to do? Lose my sponsors?" He said, "What am I going to do? Get suspended next week?" He said, "This is my last ever late model race, probably."
Oh, that's hilarious.
There was one photo I saw, and I'd be curious to ask if you remember any of this when your dad won the Open in 2006. There's a photo of you and him and Victor Layne holding the trophy, and I was curious if you remember that or just being around and being in that environment when he did win that race.
It's so sad. I don't remember any of it. I mean, it was one of those childhood memories. Like, I remember everybody was so excited and celebrating. I didn't really get it. It was like, okay, so what? I mean, sure, we're over here, we're holding this piece of glass. What is this thing? I wish that I cherished the moments more. I was worried about getting my graham crackers and my hot dog when I get back. That was more important to me than anything. So it like I said, it was cool that I'm there. It's cool there's pictures of it, but I hate that I wasn't really of age to understand it and experience it. And as I went.
Another question coming in the inbox. This one's from Bomani. Bomani wants to know, guys, with Christmas here, what's the best Christmas present you've ever received? Don, we'll start with you this time.
Oh boy, I think we got a similar question last year, and of course you appreciate all the gifts you get and anybody thinks of you, but one that I think that just impacted me the most as a 4-year-old, Santa Claus bringing a PlayStation and a bunch of games, and in that game, NASCAR 99. And that's the game that got me hooked on the sport of NASCAR. Now, Layne, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm from New Mexico. We don't have motorsports that much out here. We have IndyCar. You have your occasional NASCAR fan that you see out in public, but NASCAR is not really popular here in New Mexico, and that extended to my family. But to be able to play that video game at a young age and grow an appreciation for it, and then just how it's transpired into having spot in the sport 20 some years later. You couldn't have scripted it any better. And I think for me, Tyler, that NASCAR 99 video game has to be the most impactful game or impactful gift I've ever gotten on Christmas.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good choice. David, how about you?
Man, I kind of just listening to Layne and hearing all his exciting news and everything. I think Christmas came early for him. A guy that's worked hard and deserved the right, earned that right. I always thought over the years when Christmas time was here, I was just so thankful. I didn't need a gift from anybody. My gift was, man, I signed a contract with this team or had a good sponsor. I was just always thankful for going into that next year, looking forward to Daytona and to the season, man. I tell you, Christmas was always special last 25 years for me, knowing what I was going to get to compete all year long, and so I guess the best Christmas ever really was really when my two boys were born. But man, all the racing, still the racing and the teams I got to drive for and the sponsors, that was just, I always really thought, man, what a blessing to wake up Christmas morning and know that, man, that you're a NASCAR race car driver, you made it, and you was going to race another year for a great team. That was always really, I know it's kind of not really but man, the last 25 years, Christmas has been beautiful for me, and just like it is for Layne, So absolutely, that's kind of what my great Christmas presents have been.
Yeah, Layne, what about on your end, man?
Yeah, I mean, on a simple term, I think first dirt bike, that was pretty cool. Santa Claus put it right up under the tree. Somehow he got that thing down the chimney. I don't know how he did it, but that was the love for that was amidst my stick and ball time, trying to do the golf and do this, and then I got that dirt bike, and that was it. The stick and balls got put on Craigslist because I didn't want them anymore. That was it, and then I turned into the go kart later. I didn't get the go kart for Christmas or anything, but it was one of them things. It was near the same time period. But the first little dirt bike, that was my first. It was a Suzuki 50, one of them little peewee bikes, are super super tiny. We still got it. I think Dad's gonna build a trophy case for it one day for it because that's pretty cool. We still ride it around in the driveway sometimes just for memories. But yeah, just always thankful for everything I've got. My Christmas gift this year already come early. People are asking me, my grandma's like, man, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I don't want anything. I already got everything. I've got to the point now, I got everything I want. And, been thankful for it all. I've had a great childhood and always been blessed with great things. And, I couldn't be more happy with everything.
I love that. That's
Oh,
great stuff.
Well, how about you guys?
Man, me growing up, like I'm sure some of you guys seen that movie, Step Brothers. The line, "Don't touch my drum set." My favorite Christmas gift. I'm a drummer. I don't know how many people know this. I do love music and being in the drum set. But it started with me getting a drum set at home from my mom and dad and from Santa Claus. And I'll say this: I don't know how pleased the neighbors were about having the drum set in the living room and banging on that, but that was probably my favorite gift growing up was having that, and just inspired my love for music and Dominic, I've gotten to play in your band before too.
Oh, absolutely. Like Tyler, I'm a drummer and had a band for 8 years. We got to play locally and play the casinos and that sort of thing. And I got to say, guys, Tyler's pretty good on the drums. I had to go and play the bass. I don't mind moving over when somebody's better. Tyler's pretty darn good at the drums. I'm there struggling with the bass guitar, and my dad's on the guitar, but we had a good time. That was a fun jam session.
It's amazing what you learn on these podcasts. I had no idea that, Dominic, you had a band and that Tyler could play the drums. Pretty cool.
I'll say this, David, our claim to fame, we hit the recording studio, we did a single, and then we got to be the opening act for Quiet Riot when they came to the casino years ago. But that's our band's claim to fame. And I don't even know, did we really open? Because we were the first band to sign up for Battle of the Bands, but that's what we like to say is we did open for Quiet Riot.
Yeah, I'm an honorary member of the Garage Pirates, with my one performance there.
Awesome.
Guys, before I wrap up, this hour has just flown by. I'm not going to lie. It's been a lot of fun catching up with you guys and doing this show again. Layne, what's the next few days look like for you, man, as you get ready for the holidays and everything? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, I mean everything's starting to slow down. I just finished up my semester at UNC Charlotte. I don't know if I mentioned it. I go to UNC Charlotte. I'm doing their mechanical engineering program. And they have a motorsports program too there. So I'm trying to do that. I'm going to be starting. Well, I'm going to be a 3-semester senior, and I just finished my first semester as a senior in college. And I told David before the show, I said I'm going to brag on myself. I got all A's this past semester. I just found out 2 days ago.
Hey,
I'm proud of myself out for all them hard long nights I had to do. I had 2 labs, 2 20-page long reports due at the same date. It was a long semester, so I was glad that paid off. But yeah, I mean, just soaking it all in. We had a championship party, well, not a championship party, a winning party, or not winning. Whoa. We've had a lot of championship and a lot of winning parties in the past, but we had our first celebration of an opportunity party this past Saturday. All my late model team, all them guys came over. We had a good time. Took me a little while to recover Sunday morning. I had too good of a time at the later part of the night, but it was great to see everybody and spend time with people. And right now it's Christmas time. I'm going to try to spend time with the family and dad. Talking about Scott, he's feeling a little bit under the weather right now. I think he's got some kind of virus or something, but hopefully he gets over it before the holidays and we get to travel and see everybody. But yeah, I mean, still just got a couple more shows and podcasts lined up. Talk to some more people and tell them my story. And I appreciate you guys letting me come on here and tell y'all and tell all your viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. David, what's going on in your world the next few days, man?
Man, just trying to slow down a little bit, start enjoying Christmas, going to some plays and going to go ice skate and just spend a little time with my family and just slowing down some. And Christmas is here, and we've been busy at the racing school and been in a lot of meetings and traveling some. So it's tomorrow we'll work a half day and then call it quits until after Christmas. So just spend some time with a lot of our family and just enjoy the meaning of Christmas and enjoy Christmas. So that's what we're going to do the next 3 or 4 days. What about you guys?
Headed back home to Tulsa, go see the family on a Thursday, so that'll be good. And then back here for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So
Awesome.
Going on in my world. But guys, a lot of fun doing this show as always. Hope everybody has a great Christmas. Layne, before we run, where can people follow you and see all the stuff you're doing and keep up with your racing stuff, man?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, X or Twitter, and Facebook at Layne Riggs 99. I run all my own social pages. I try to keep everybody updated as much as I can and make it look good and make sure everybody can collaborate and have the Riggs fan community make sure they all are up to speed. So make sure to give me a follow on there, and all the latest news and outcoming things are always posted there.
Awesome. Great stuff there. Check out Layne, and we'll definitely be rooting you on this season, man, and look forward to it, and best of luck here in 2024. We will sign off. We'll put the checkered flag out in this episode. As always, subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on social media, X at Star Podcasts, formerly known as Twitter. Also, Facebook.com/Star Podcast. And by email, you can reach out to us there, davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you back here next time. For David Starr, Dominic Aragon, and Layne Riggs, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. Have a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time right here on Let's Go Racing.